9/11 is the time, and for many, the holidays are a time to be with family, friends, and loved ones.
But when those loved ones are no longer here to celebrate, it can be intensely difficult. Psychologist Dr. Karen Ryan with Nystrom & Associates is here to talk about grief. Thanks for being here today. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
This is a tough subject. And I think the holidays in particular are very hard for people because people have so many great positive feelings and nostalgic feelings, and the holidays really seem to bring that out.
They really do, because holidays are a time when we get together with our loved ones. It's the time when we get together and we celebrate being together. And when somebody is not there, when we've lost a loved one, their absence feels really loud. That's what David Kessler says, your absence is really loud this holiday season. And so it can feel really difficult because we have so many traditions. And when you think about your family and you think about our loved ones, each of us plays a really special role. And when that person is gone, we really feel their loss intensely, right? Because we are sad, we're not able to make more of those memories together, and we really miss them over the holidays.
And I think it's natural for people when they're feeling that way to kind of want to isolate, to kind of want to stay inside and not really embrace what's going on, right? It's hard to be happy.
Yeah.
When everyone else is happy, when you're feeling so sad.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We sometimes want to just shut down and avoid everything and not do anything. And so it's finding that balance where we really want people to be able to honor their needs, but recognizing, like, if I avoid all of my emotions, that's probably going to make me feel more lonely and feel worse. And so it's how do we find this balance of being able to essentially lean into the grief, right? And so how do I continue to work through the holidays versus avoid them, right? And I think there's a couple of really helpful quotes of grief is love with nowhere to go, right? Grief is about love, right? Because we really loved that person. And so I think that can be a helpful thing of feeling like, okay, I've got all this love that I want to give to this person, and I can't externally show that to them, but what can I do to kind of make it through these holidays? And there's some things that we can do to make it helpful.
It's very hard for people to it's one thing to say it, but then to do that then. So Dad's no longer here. Do you make something that he used to like to have, and do you talk about it? And because that's really hard in itself too, because a lot of our instinct is to just shut it out, don't talk about it.
Push it away, don't want to talk about it. Exactly. And I think sometimes we can be under the false pretense of we have to act as if everything's okay, or if I go to this family gathering or this friends gathering, I can't be sad. And that is absolutely not the case. I think loved ones and your family are going to understand and want to give you that space to feel sad. So I think feeling like you have to put on a mask, remove that and say, no, you don't. You can come and be authentic, right? What can we do to help, right? So you said making a dish or something that they really loved and talking about it. I really want to make sure we make the sweet potatoes because I'm really missing grandma, right? Doing a toast or doing a prayer at the beginning of dinner can be a really nice way. Do you light a candle and put their picture by it so you're remembering that person? Do you start by sharing stories about that person? Ask for other people to share stories. Sometimes it can be hard and feel like we don't want to talk about it. And if you can be brave and start that conversation and show you want to talk about your loved one, that can be a really helpful way to do that. Or if you're next to that person, right, being brave and bringing that up and talking about it, right? Because we've had a lot of loss in my family. And so a couple of our uncles have lost, right, their wives. And so it's really hard of how can I go? And so it's knowing you can go and then you can leave early if you need to. You can have two different plans, right? I'm going to go, and if I need to leave, then I can leave, right? It might be I'm going to adjust the gathering and how we do it.
I also think about the grief and how everyone handles it differently, right?
Yes.
You're getting together at a family gathering and you've just lost someone important to multiple people in the circle. Maybe some people want to talk about it because they're remembering that person and it's almost like they're here and they're honoring them while others aren't ready for it yet.
Yeah.
So kind of having that grace with people in your home who may be dealing with loss.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no right or wrong way to grieve. And so if you are somebody who's wanting to talk about it, hey, can you be around that person and lean in and sit down next to them on the couch, and then the two of you can have a conversation, right? It's knowing kind of who do I feel safe with and who do I feel like is going to be receptive to my grief, and connecting with that person can be a really helpful way to navigate that.
I like the idea of getting together with other people who are maybe going through a similar experience. There is something to be said about that when you feel like somebody else can relate in the same way that you can relate to something.
Yeah, and I really think that's the power of grief groups, Chris. It can be one of the hardest things you'll do is make that phone call that first time you go to that grief group, because again, like, you are leaning into something that feels difficult, right? And again, the goal is like, I'm going to work through this. I'm not going to try to push it away. I'm not going to try to forget grief. That is not what grief groups are about. It's how do I be able to like validate and honor and like go through this grief. And so there's a lot of different grief groups. I referred to this person before. David Kessler is a specialist who really specializes in grief. He has free online groups around the holidays, right? So they're like 3 hours online, completely free. Most mental health clinics like myself will have grief groups, right? Specialized with individuals who are specialized in helping people through grief. We have individual therapists at my clinic and throughout Nystrom that specialize in working with individuals who are experiencing grief. And so having somebody who really gets it and understands it can be a helpful way to navigate, especially during the holiday seasons when all these things are really brought to light. We really feel their loss intensely.
I think about the grief too. I mean, if it was like my grandmother died, and so, you know, we make the cookies that she made, the little butter cookies, and that's a way for us. But it's like a cheerful way to remember her and let her know, you know, you're still with us. But then I have a friend who lost a baby unexpectedly, and that's another type of grief that, you know, she's probably not going to do what she did on her child's first Christmas because it's too hard. And so it's just, I think, recognizing that your grief is very different than someone else's grief, depending on if it was a tragic loss or, you know.
Yeah, especially for the losses when we feel like we were cut short, right? Where we didn't get the holidays that we wanted with that person. And like for your friend, like anticipating how old this individual would be now, how old the child would be and what they'd be doing, and just that sadness that they didn't get that opportunity to do that. And so the other piece of like grief is let yourself grieve, right? If you have 500 tears to cry this season, don't stop at 250, right? Because I think there can be that fear of I won't stop crying, and you will, right? But it's letting yourself have that space to feel sadness for those things that you're missing is really important.
I think good thing to keep in mind too is you may not know that somebody's grieving. And you know, you're like, well, is that person so grumpy for? You know, well, cheer her up. It's holidays. But you don't know what. You know what kind of stuff people are dealing with. I sort of give everybody a little more grace, I guess.
I think that is a fantastic piece of advice. Give people grace, and don't assume, and just let people have space and be what they need to be this holiday.
Absolutely. Dr. Ryan, thank you.
My pleasure.
Good to see you. Happy holidays.
You too.
Nystrom & Associates has more than 40 locations across the state, including in Duluth and East Grand Forks, Rochester. So if you are struggling with stress, anxiety, depression, or addiction, or know someone who is, make sure that you reach out to them.